Време на пандемия. Време за избор. От ръба на оцеляването до световните постижения. София на пътя на иновациите. Време е за среща на върха.
Welcome to the Innovation Explorer Forum 2021. And how I wish I could have been there with you in person in one room, without a mask even, perhaps. However, I am still delighted that we are able to communicate and share knowledge, even within the global pandemic. And I must say, thanks to willpower and technology, I would like to also offer a big thank you to all those people who make this forum possible from my home, and that you are able to watch this from your offices and your homes. I will be talking to you today about three topics. One is innovation, the second one is leadership in crisis, and the third one is why knowledge is contagious. What I love about innovation is that one size does not fit all. I also like that innovation has very different definitions and that there are different types of innovations. For example, innovation can be about a new way of doing something, but innovation can also be about solving a problem, and that is what energizes me, is when I can solve a consumer or a business problem in a way that has impact. In terms of types of innovations, there's incremental innovation, there's radical innovation, there's disruptive innovation. One thing that I noticed during the pandemic is that it has the breeding ground for all of these and many more. Think about the different ways that we have adjusted in our behavior of doing things. The way we have come to enjoy the retail industry, what we do for food supply, and not to mention going 100% virtually. Now, it might be a little crazy for me to say that the beauty of COVID, but let's be a little crazy, and I will say that the beauty of COVID is that it delivered to our doorstep the future of the world much faster. There were times when education, retail, none of these things were virtual. Everything took time, so we did incremental innovation to get to the point where we're comfortable buying retail products from Amazon, where we can take a class at the university virtually and get a degree that is accepted. Think about how long that took over time. But now, due to the pandemic, we don't know how long it's gonna last, so we don't wait for the pandemic to be over and then. For example, within the World Bank, we had to come up with different ways of doing things. We had to implement a zero-touch policy so that we can provision IT equipment to people we have recruited, also 100% virtually, so that business can continue. These were things, again, we probably would have done over time, but the pandemic made us do it right away. It is often said that innovation is created by necessity. That necessity is the mother of innovation. And we have an opportunity as knowledge worker to make this happen. The pandemic also forced us to look at solutions that our clients need that we did not deliver before. For example, we are familiar with monitoring and tracking tools and technologies. But this time, one solution that my team has delivered for our clients is one where we are tracking staff going in and out of our offices, not just for tracking purposes, but also to make sure that we stagger them, to ensure that we comply with social distancing rules so that we don't have too many people at the same time in the building. And these are the parameters we're able to set within the solution. So this is another example of the pandemic crisis of any sort, really creating a necessity for us to build a solution that we can call innovative, but it would not be necessary if the catalyst was not a crisis. The second topic I want to talk about is leadership, naturally female leadership, and what the pandemic has requested of us as leaders. And I have had this discussion with many of my colleagues and staff, and can I tell you, it's been tough. I know it's been tough for everybody. However, sometimes I feel that for leaders, there has been an extra burden. And here is why. All of a sudden, we have to take responsibility beyond what we took in the office. Now, I am very concerned about the safety of our employees. Not that I wasn't concerned before, but if I'm in a meeting and someone is not present, I no longer have the benefit of somebody walking by my door and saying, oh, by the way, such and such a person is running late or is out. I have to worry about their physical and mental well-being. So in terms of leadership skills, there is this notion of adaptive leadership where you adapt to the situation. And as leaders adapting to the pandemic, what it really has done for me and my peers and the conversations that I'm having here is it is bringing out the humanity in us, because all of a sudden the home has become the childcare center, has become the office for the husband and the wife or anyone else that you room with. It has also become a gathering place where you gather, but with social distancing. It's very complicated all of a sudden. So, and the manager, leaders as ourselves, we have become these bopping heads on a Microsoft or WebEx screen instead of being, for some, the authoritative figure or the collaborator or the coach. So as a leader now, I have to pay more attention to being empathetic. When I hear the baby cry or the dog bark in the background when I have in a meeting, I need to find some extra patience, again, humanity. So the leader in the pandemic, the skill set that is required of us, in addition to being agile, collaborative, solutions-oriented, is to have empathy and be human. In addition to having empathy and displaying humanity at the line levels, executives at the top levels of organizations also have increased responsibility. Now they have to think about what to do for the survival of their business, to continue to serve their clients, and whether they need to change in strategy. They have to be able to pivot, and they have to be able to implement changes swiftly. For example, when the world needed more sanitizers and the demand was much higher than the supply, there were some distilleries that made their excess alcohol available to suppliers and others so that they could have more sanitizers on the market. There were folks who were supplying food to the restaurant industry who were all of a sudden faced with so much food supplies in a very short amount of time. They had to think about what to do with it. So some of them offered their produce to direct customers. I read an article in which there was a bookstore next to a restaurant, and the restaurant did not have outdoor space, but the bookstore did. So what the two business owners did is they created a partnership. They created a partnership where the bookstore owner allowed the restaurant owner to use the outdoor space for its customers. And as part of the partnership, they displayed the books. So while people were eating, they had the chance to look at the books and increase sales in the bookstore. So this comes back to partnerships. So one thing the pandemic is showing us, that partnerships continue to be one of the most powerful relationships that we can build in maintaining our business. Last but not least, knowledge is contagious, indeed. And this is one infection I would like to have, and I would like all of us to be infected with knowledge. Knowledge helps us understand the world better. It helps us contextualize dilemmas and new situations. It helps us understand the root cause analysis of problems. Let's look at the very basic concept of knowledge. There would be literacy. In the past, if you could read and write, you were literate. If you couldn't, you were illiterate. Then came the digital age. What happened then? We started to talk as a community about digital literacy and digital illiteracy. If you did not know how to use technology or simply did not have access to technology, you were part of the digital divide. It meant you were at a disadvantage. There are scholars who believe that the illiterate folks of the 21st century are those who are unable to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Sometimes I say things like, I miss my BlackBerry, and somebody is bound to ask me, did it have a GPS? When I was in business school, which was almost 30 years ago, what we were taught in business school is so different from how business is conducted today. We were learning about incremental changes. Today, it's about exponential changes. We were learning about slow and steady. Today, it's about disrupting. So when we talk about knowledge, we have to put it in the context of today's world, of the knowledge economy, and we have to understand that we want it to be contagious. It has to be like the coronavirus in a way. It has to have many-to-many relationships which are exponentially growing and taking their own forms, rather than the one-to-many, the way it used to be in the old days. Contagious knowledge is particularly important when you embark upon uncharted territories. It is knowing what you don't know that will contribute greatly to your success. I believe we have come to the end of my time with you, and I would like to leave you with a quote, and I would like to read it to you so I can stick to its accuracy. It is a quote from Abraham Lincoln, and it says, "The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think new and act anew." So I would encourage you to go out in the world, think anew and act anew. Learn, unlearn, and relearn. Thank you for spending some time with us.